Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. We'll be talking about the numbers recorded in November. This show is being taped in December. I'll be talking about, with my assistant, Tim White, some of the accomplishments made at the Registry of Deeds over the past year. And then, as always, we'll go into some county and colony history. So let's go right to the numbers. First numbers you're going to see is a bar chart of deeds. There were 579 deeds recorded in November, less than the 592 in October, 13% less than last year for November, and 19% less year-to-date. We've had very difficult market, low inventory, high prices, and a very difficult time, particularly for first-time home buyers, but generally for everyone. And that reflects in our drop in recordings of deeds. But if you look at the bar chart, the listing next, you'll see from Abington to Whitman, there are still many sales. Plymouth and Brockton have the larger number of sales, but every single community, down to our smallest community of Plimpton, has sales. You know, see a bar chart of mortgages. Mortgages have seen the biggest drop over the past few years. When the interest rates went up, refinancing stopped. We still have mortgages, 1,032 recorded in November, less than the 1,048 recorded in October. So we were down 14% to last November, but year to date, we're down 36% in recorded mortgages. We've always talked about foreclosures since the meltdown of 2008 and 9. Numbers are very, very low in foreclosures. There was a moratorium in place during COVID, and the lenders have not yet caught up. There were only 12 foreclosure deeds throughout Plymouth County in November, less than the 16 in October. Year to date, we're up 36% because as I mentioned earlier, during COVID, there were no notices or deeds allowed. So also you will find a bar chart of foreclosure notices. A foreclosure notice is what we get when someone is showing difficulty paying their loan. If you find yourself in difficulty, reach out to a federal housing counselor. We only had 43 foreclosure notices throughout the county in November, more than the 38 in October. And year to date in that category, we're up 15%. Then you're going to see a listing of all the foreclosure notices and deeds, again, in alphabetical order, from Abington to Whitman, 1 city, 26 towns. We offer a free fraud alert at the registry, and a lot of people these days have been concerned about fraud. It doesn't happen that often, very rarely in fact, and normally when it happens, it has to do with a family dispute. But if you're concerned about fraud, sign up for our free fraud alert. Go to our website, PlymouthDeeds.org, go to our resources, you'll come across fraud alert. Click onto that. It'll take you through a series of steps, including put in your email, and when a document gets recorded in your name, you'll get an email, and you can check and see whether it was something like a discharge that should have been recorded or something more nefarious. We've also been doing a very significant program of transcriptions. Our beautiful handwritten documents go back to 1685, but a lot of people can't read that writing, and there are some people not even being trained in cursive. So there's a button on top of the cursive document that you can hit, and it'll show you a printed document. We're moving strongly ahead on that, and I think it's going to be a good feature for the future. So we'll go to the next segment. I have a great presentation by Tim White, the first assistant Register of Deeds, about some of our accomplishments over the past year. Welcome back to the Registry Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always do something educational in nature. Surveyors, appraisers, many realtors, and people that are involved in the real estate business. Once in a while, we get to talk about some of our activities at the Registry of Deeds. And I have a great guest with me today, the Assistant Register of Deeds for Plymouth County, Tim White. Welcome, Tim. Welcome back.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here.
So I want to, every once in a while, just kind of summarize what our year has been like and some of the changes we have made and where we see us going in the future.
Sure.
So this year was a funny year.
It was a very funny year, a challenging year.
Yeah.
And I think most folks are aware of the higher interest rates that are currently in effect that have had a dramatic impact on our business at the registry, that the number of closings are way down, the number of refinances are down even more. I think the rainbow that we see out there is that this year they're talking about not just stabilizing the rates, but actually potentially cutting them on 2 or 3 separate occasions to bring them back down a little bit more manageable. But it certainly has had an impact on the number of records that have been, documents that have been recorded at the registry.
Yeah, low interest rates, high interest rates, low inventory.
Yeah.
And people just not wanting to move because of the situation has made it very difficult for anybody to find a home. Never mind buying a home.
Certainly. One of the major impacts of the higher interest rates is that folks are locked in at lower rates in their homes, and they're saying, I'm not going to sell because I have this good rate, because if I sell, I have to buy, I'm going to have a higher rate.
So there's been some discussion. The Federal Reserve at its last meeting held interest rates the same, and there was some side talk about possibly making some reductions over the next year. We'll have to wait and see and what they do. They didn't lock it in stone, but they did say that is what they were looking to do.
One thing about the real estate market is it is cyclical and can be impacted. It is impacted by interest rates, but it's not only cyclical overall, it's cyclical on an annual basis. We're in the holiday season. Typically, even with good interest rates, our activity is quieter. But very hopeful for the spring market, and that's perhaps the best time of year to be buying and selling real estate. So hopefully the spring will show a turnaround for us.
December, January, February have traditionally been our slowest months.
Yes. Yep. Which has some positive effect for us too, because it gives us a chance to do some other things at the registry that sometimes get neglected when we're straight out busy with recordings, and we have taken advantage of that this whole year with doing some back edits on some of our old books, and when documents get recorded, they're being recorded by human beings, and as careful as they are, sometimes there are errors, and we have the opportunity when we have downtime to go back and review those recordings, and if there are errors, correct them. So that's been a plus for us, and we've made some great progress on our back edits as well.
And so just for the benefit of the public, it's one thing to record a document, and we do record, we do reject some that don't meet the standards, but it's another thing, you have to be able to find it in the right way so that your title is secure and it is a clean title.
Right. So the title examiners or the attorneys can actually, in their research, follow back your title to make sure that there are no liens or issues with the back title.
Yeah, so on a different front, we've been working on a futuristic program, taking some of the old handwritten cursive documents, and it's an outsourced project, doing transcriptions of them. So literally you can look at an old transcribed document, and at the top of that page, click that transcription name, and the handwritten comes up.
Right.
The typewritten comes up.
Typewritten comes up versus the cursive, which
Right.
all the
Is
old
the
handwriting of many of the old deeds were all in handwriting.
Right.
Because they didn't have typewriters back in the day. So we have gone as far back in our records as we can, and we are moving forward to the point where hopefully we get where there are only typewritten records. But we made great progress on that too, and that's, it's a neat project. It's certainly helpful in respect to the legibility and ability to research way back titles. More so for genealogists, historians, than for title examiners, because title examiners typically only go back 50 years, and the last 50 years, obviously, everything is typewritten. But there's enough interest in it, and I think there's enough of a good rationale for doing it. It certainly have terrific historic significance.
We've had a lot of great comments from historians around the county, and usually every town has a few, and genealogists for family research, to be able to read those and not have to try to understand the handwritten has been something that we've had multiple comments about.
Right, and I mean, it's not just the historians and the genealogists, though, because there are occasions where, for some reason or another, the title needs to be, you need to go back that far, whether it's a municipal property, commercial property, something along those lines, that sometimes they just need to go back that far to satisfy the lenders or the purchasers of the property that they have clean title.
Right. So that is our major project of notable to the public that would be concerned. Do you want to talk about our fraud alert?
Sure. We've had fraud, part of our registry practice is that we have a process or a system that you can voluntarily sign in, and accent on the voluntary, that if you sign in, that then you will be notified if there are any recordings against your deed. And that is wherein the fraud alert comes in, is that if somebody perhaps recorded a mortgage unbeknownst to you against your property, you would get that alert right away. You see it advertised on television for, sign up with us, you're not protecting your home, it's your most valuable asset, and we will only charge you X, Y, and Z for it. Well, we do it for free.
Yeah.
It's part of our what we provide to the public.
And fraud doesn't happen as much as people might imagine. And I mentioned earlier in the show, sometimes it's just family members disputing with other family members, that it happens. But to protect yourself, and a lot of people worry about it, because it is, for most people, your most valuable asset.
Yeah.
It's a good practice to do.
Absolutely, and it's free.
Right.
It's a good service.
So what you would do is go to our website, PlymouthDeeds.org, go then to the resource section, and that'll bring you to a series of options, and one of them is the fraud alert. You click on that, and then it'll guide you what information
Enter
you
your
need to put
name
in.
and your email.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, very simple.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
And we're obviously doing a series of upgrades that, to our refreshing our computers from time to time, whether it be servers or the desktops, and on we go.
Printers, copiers,
Right.
technology requires it.
Yeah.
We want to stay at the front of the game, so to speak.
So I guess the last thing is, let's talk about what people should expect going into the new year.
Well, again, I think we're hoping that we're going to see interest rates come down, and that hopefully will have a tumble-down effect, that it'll create larger inventory of properties on the market, and we'll see some more activity. But it's anyone's guess, John. It's you just don't know. You just don't know how it's going to go. Real estate is cyclical. It will come back. Will it be this spring? Hopefully.
So over the course of this year, we've had multiple realtors on this show. And if you're thinking about selling or buying, find yourself a good realtor that you can work with. And you eventually will be guided to get a pre-approval letter to find out what it is you can afford. A lot of that relates to the interest rates.
Right.
But you have to talk to someone to make sure you're prepared, so at the right time you're ready to go. Your credit rate, your credit issues, all those things you can take care of in advance and get ready for a good new year for you. So want to wish everyone a happy holiday season and a good new year, because my next show will not be till 2024. So we wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, and a very, very Happy New Year.
See you next year.
See you next year. Thank you, Tim, for the great job you did describing the accomplishments of the registry over the past year. In this segment 3, we always do something a little lighter in nature. There's some holidays for the month that are notable. Pearl Harbor Day on the 7th. Hanukkah started on the 7th. National Bill of Rights Day was the 15th. The beginning of the winter solstice will begin on the 21st. And obviously Christmas on the 25th. But we're going to show you some of our Plymouth County notable records that deal with the holiday. First off, James Edgar. James Edgar was an immigrant from Edinburgh, Scotland. He had a department store, Edgar's Department Store, on Main Street in Brockton, and he would dress up as a George Washington, a captain, a clown, all to entertain children. So one year he dressed up as a jolly Santa Claus based on a popular illustration of the time for Santa Claus, and it really took off and people really liked it. Matter of fact, it began the tradition of department store Santa Claus all across America. People came from far away to see him. He was a very well-known man in the city, and a city park is named for him. Remember his generosity. The next county notable also relates to the holiday. Reginald Aubrey Fessenden, he started the first transatlantic two-way broadcast. He was a Canadian-born engineer, and he had a station with a big antenna over near Brant Rock in Marshfield. He produced a radio broadcast which included music and the religious hymn Silent Night, which reached as far as the Caribbean. The tower is now gone. However, there is a plaque at the base of the tower recognizing it as the Fessenden Tower. He had previously worked for the National Weather Bureau and Thomas Edison, but his achievement continues to be recognized today. The last Plymouth County record is a gentleman who is known for the tradition of the Flying Santa, Edward Rowe Snow. He was an author, He wrote a lot of books about storms and shipwrecks and pirates, but he used to go up in a plane and drop gifts off to the lighthouse keepers' children. And at the time, that was the only way they would get Christmas gifts because at that time of year, it was very difficult to get out to the lighthouses in the ocean. He was a dedicated preservationist and lover of the Boston Harbor Islands, and there's a plaque in his name on George's Island due to his commitment. And last but not least, one of our Plymouth colony records, which tells an interesting story around the holiday, because a lot of people in the tradition would get engaged on Christmas Eve, but this tradition going back to 1638, the colonial court required someone to ask the father of the potential bride for their hand in marriage, and if they did not, there were penalties to pay, including fines and even corporal punishment. There was an alternative that you could go to the magistrate, and the magistrate could allow you to marry someone's daughter, or if the father was not around. But that just shows you the strictness of some of those colonial era laws, and that you really had to watch out. So I want to thank Michelle Hebshe for the great job she does here at Brockton Cable Access. This is a very significant part for us of sharing our information. This is my 158th show, 158, here at PAC TV, trying to share with people what for most people is information about their most valuable asset. So have a great and Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year.